are visibly upset. They may provoke you with precision, bringing up insecurities you once trusted them with, pressing on wounds they know have not healed. The arguments feel engineered. The insults feel tailored. They watch your reaction closely, not with concern, but with curiosity, almost study-like. There is a subtle satisfaction when you cry, panic, or plead. It is not explosive rage anymore. It is controlled cruelty. They may deny this enjoyment, of course. Outwardly, they might claim you are too sensitive or accuse you of overreacting. But the pattern repeats too consistently to ignore. They bait, you break, they observe. Sometimes there is even a faint smirk, a composed tone, an eerie steadiness while you unravel. That emotional contrast is not accidental. This is the moment when the dynamic shifts from ego defense to emotional predation. Your vulnerability becomes leverage. Your suffering becomes reinforcement. And instead of feeling disturbed by the harm they cause, they seem energized by it, as though your pain confirms their power and secures their dominance over you. The second terrifying sign is systematic dehumanization. This is where you stop being seen as a full human being with thoughts, feelings, and dignity, and instead become a function, a role, a source of supply. In the earlier stages of narcissistic behavior, there may still be flashes of charm, connection, or even selective empathy when it serves them. But when someone has fallen fully into something darker, that thin layer disappears. You are no longer a person to them. You are an object to manage. Conversations start to feel transactional. Your emotions are inconveniences. Your needs are threats. When you express hurt, they don't lean in with curiosity. They dismiss, mock, or twist your words. Over time, they begin rewriting your identity. You are labeled crazy, dramatic, ungrateful, or unstable. These labels are repeated so often that they begin to stick, not just socially, but psychologically. Gaslighting becomes deliberate destabilization. They contradict obvious facts, deny previous statements, and manufacture confusion with precision. What makes this especially chilling is the absence of remorse. When you clearly articulate how their actions harmed you, there is no pause of reflection. Instead, there is deflection. They blame you for provoking them. They project their behavior onto you. Or they grow cold and indifferent as though your suffering is irrelevant data. This emotional detachment allows them to justify escalating harm because, in their internal narrative, you are no longer fully human. You are a problem to contain, a pawn to position, or an obstacle to eliminate. The third terrifying sign is escalation without limits. At this stage, the narcissist is no longer testing boundaries to see what they can get away with. They are pushing them deliberately to expand control. What once looked like isolated incidents of manipulation now becomes a pattern of intensifying behavior. Each time you set a boundary, instead of adjusting, they double down. Each time you detach, instead of reflecting, they retaliate. You may notice that the tactics grow sharper and more calculated. If emotional manipulation no longer works, they may shift to intimidation. If guilt no longer pulls you back, they may threaten your reputation. They might involve third parties, spread rumors, distort private conversations, or attempt to isolate you socially or professionally. The escalation feels strategic, not reactive. It is designed to destabilize you and reassert dominance. What is especially disturbing is their tolerance for collateral damage. They are willing to risk shared finances, family stability, friendships, even their own public image if it means maintaining power over you. There is a sense that no line is too sacred. Your safety, your peace, your credibility, these become negotiable in their pursuit of control. Fear replaces admiration as their primary source of supply. They no longer need you to praise them. They need you to feel small, anxious, or cornered. And when they sense that you are regaining strength, the escalation can spike dramatically, as though your independence is a direct threat to their existence. The unpredictability keeps you on edge, constantly bracing for the next move, which is exactly how they maintain psychological dominance. The fourth sign, and perhaps one of the most unsettling, is the complete absence of remorse paired with moral inversion. At this stage, the narcissist doesn't just avoid accountability, they reconstruct reality so thoroughly that they become the victim in every story. When confronted with clear evidence of harm, they do not show confusion, shame, or even defensiveness in the usual sense. Instead, they respond with chilling certainty. In their version of events, your pain is either exaggerated, fabricated, or deserved. You may bring receipts, messages, timelines, witnesses, and it does not matter. They will calmly dismantle the narrative piece by piece, reframing cruelty as discipline, betrayal as self-protection, and humiliation as honesty. What makes this terrifying is not just the lying, it is the conviction behind it. They appear to believe their own distortions. This moral inversion allows them to act without internal friction. If they are always right, then you must always be wrong. Over time, you begin to question your own ethical compass. You wonder if you are too sensitive, too demanding, too flawed. Meanwhile, they stand firmly in a posture of righteousness. There is no apology that isn't strategic, no acknowledgement that isn't followed by a but. Even when the consequences of their behavior are severe, their focus remains on how they were inconvenienced, misunderstood, or attacked. This absence of remorse creates a psychological vacuum. Without empathy to anchor the interaction, there is no shared reality to repair, no common ground to return to, only a shifting narrative in which they remain justified and you remain at fault. The fifth sign is calculated reputation sabotage. At this stage, the narcissist understands that direct control over you may be slipping, so they shift their focus outward. Instead of only destabilizing you privately, they begin shaping how others see you. And they do it subtly at first. A small comment here, a concerned tone there. I'm just worried about them. They've been really unstable lately. It sounds caring on the surface, but it plants seeds. What makes this terrifying is the foresight. They often begin the smear campaign before you even realize the relationship is deteriorating. They preemptively position themselves as the reasonable one, the patient one, the long-suffering one. So when you finally speak up about the harm, your credibility has already been quietly eroded. People may look at you with skepticism. Some may distance themselves. You feel confused, isolated, blindsided. If subtle tactics don't work, the attacks can become more direct. Private conversations are twisted. Personal vulnerabilities you shared in trust are weaponized. They may exaggerate, fabricate, or strategically omit details to craft a narrative that paints you as unstable, abusive, or untrustworthy. And all the while, they maintain composure publicly. That contrast, their calm exterior and your visible distress, works in their favor. This isn't impulsive gossip, it's image management through character assassination. By weakening your support system, they increase your dependence and reduce your ability to defend yourself. The isolation reinforces their control, and the deeper the smear goes, the harder it becomes to untangle truth from fiction, leaving you fighting not just the relationship, but a distorted version of yourself they have carefully constructed. The sixth sign is emotional baiting followed by weaponized withdrawal. At this point, the narcissist understands your emotional patterns intimately. They know what triggers hope in you, what triggers fear, what triggers guilt, and they use that knowledge with precision. They may suddenly offer warmth, nostalgia, or promises of change just when you begin to detach. They mirror the version of themselves you once believed in. For a moment, you feel relief, maybe even optimism, but this tenderness is not connection, it is strategy. As soon as you lean back in, emotionally, practically, or relationally, the withdrawal begins. Messages go unanswered. Affection disappears. Plans are canceled. The warmth turns cold without explanation. When you question the shift, they accuse you of being needy or paranoid. The emotional whiplash keeps you off balance. You are constantly trying to decode what you did wrong, how to restore the good version of them. This pattern creates a trauma bond. The intermittent reinforcement, the unpredictable cycle of reward and rejection hooks your nervous system. You begin chasing stability from the very person destabilizing you, and they know it. The power lies in unpredictability. By controlling access to approval, affection, or basic communication, they control your emotional state. What makes this especially dark is the awareness behind it. They have studied your breaking points. They know how long to stay distant before you panic. They know how little kindness it takes to reset your hope. The cycle is not chaotic. It is calibrated, and each repetition strengthens their dominance while weakening your sense of internal security, leaving you tethered to someone who pulls you close only to push you away on purpose. The seventh sign is calculated crisis creation. When a narcissist has fallen completely into darkness, peace itself becomes a threat. Stability gives you space to think, to regain clarity, to reconnect with your own instincts. So they manufacture chaos, and they do it in ways that make you look like the unstable one. Out of nowhere, a minor issue becomes an explosive conflict. A simple disagreement turns into a character indictment. They may pick fights before important events, sabotage milestones, or create emotional upheaval during moments that should belong to you. Birthdays, work opportunities, family gatherings. Suddenly there is drama that demands all the oxygen in the room. Your attention shifts from your life to managing their reaction. These crises are rarely random. They often surface when you are gaining independence, forming new connections, or appearing confident. The timing is strategic. By destabilizing you, they recenter themselves as the dominant force in your emotional world. You are pulled back into survival mode, problem solving, damage control. What makes this terrifying is the pattern. Once you step back, you see that calm periods are consistently interrupted by turmoil that benefits them. The chaos distracts from their behavior. It exhausts you. It isolates you, and it reinforces a subtle message. You cannot have stability without them disrupting it. Over time, your nervous system adapts to constant unpredictability. You begin anticipating disaster even during quiet moments. That hypervigilance keeps you tethered, focused on managing the next explosion instead of reclaiming your autonomy. And in that state of chronic crisis, they maintain control without ever appearing to force it directly. The eighth sign is the complete erosion of boundaries combined with entitlement to your existence. At this stage, the narcissist no longer sees limits as legitimate. Your privacy, your time, your body, your ambitions, none of it is viewed as separate from them. If you attempt to assert independence, it is treated as betrayal. If you withhold access, it is framed as cruelty. They may monitor you obsessively, question your whereabouts, demand explanations for ordinary decisions, or insert themselves into areas of your life that do not involve them. If you pull away emotionally, they push harder. If you create physical distance, they find ways to reappear through messages, mutual contacts, or sudden emergencies that require your attention. The underlying belief is chilling. You do not get to exist outside their control. What makes this especially dangerous is the justification they attach to it. They call it love. They call it loyalty. They call it concern. But real care respects autonomy. This does not. This is ownership disguised as attachment. When boundaries are reinforced, their response may escalate into anger, intimidation, or attempts to punish you for daring to separate. Over time, you may feel as though you are shrinking, constantly negotiating for basic space. You begin editing your behavior to avoid confrontation. You limit your joy, your expression, your growth. And that is precisely the goal. When someone feels entitled, not just to your attention, but to your identity itself, the relationship stops being relational and becomes territorial, with you positioned as something to possess rather than a person to respect. When you step back and look at all of these signs together, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. This is no longer about insecurity, ego wounds, or emotional immaturity. This is about intentional harm. It is about a shift from reactive dysfunction to deliberate cruelty. When someone enjoys your pain, strips away your humanity, escalates without limits, rewrites morality to escape remorse, sabotages your reputation, destabilizes you through calculated withdrawal, manufactures crises, and violates your boundaries as though they own you. That is not love. That is not passion. That is not just how they are. It is a system. And the most dangerous part of that system is how slowly it conditions you to normalize it. You begin to minimize the red flags. You rationalize the patterns. You question your